Hey everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to do a double weather forecast this week. I'm going to look at both the monthly forecast for January and also the week of January 3rd through 9th. And first of all, I want to dedicate this episode to my old friend Janelle, who passed away this past week. She was one of the first followers of the blog when it went over to YouTube, and was one of the most insightful, non-professional astrology people that I knew, who could really keep up in a very high level of understanding of astrology in a conversational sense. So not only am I dedicating this episode to her, but it's actually being shot at the place where she last resided. So really in loving memory of Janelle. So first of all, let's do January. And there's a lot going on in January. In fact, there's a lot more I want to talk about in January than really this week. Although, that being said, the very first thing I'm going to talk about is this week, exact, and I think is actually one of the most significant things of the month. And also when you think that, like, January 1st being the new year in the calendar system that we use in the world, this aspect is so close to January 1st. In exactness, it's actually January 3rd, which was Monday, that it's imprinted really in the in the energy of this year, in a way. So what that is Jupiter is actually squaring the nodal axis. It's right between the north and south nodes of the moon. So what I really see this as being, and is it's going to be a year, and this is on both personal and societal levels, because Jupiter is one of the two societal planets, but people's individual choices together create what that societal energy is. So very interesting. What I really see this as being is our values and our beliefs are in crisis right now. They're being challenged for legitimacy is a good way to say it. And like I said, both on both scales. And that, basically what I think is going on here is our own selfishness is kind of is what's stopping us right now from making better connections. And so there's almost like a disturbed life force energy going on right now, and it's on a very large scale too. And a lot of the danger of it is what I would call myself, quote, big head, unquote, disease, kind of being stuck in our own self-righteousness, our own judgments. And that's what's actually blocking us from furthering our truths right now, and our own personal growth, even our own benefits possibly in the real world, are being blocked by our own inability to overcome some of our own personal values. And therefore we're creating almost like a disharmony around the present, because we're stuck in the past and stuck on these values that we have in the past. And it's also a lot of not really kind of almost antisocial behavior going on, not poor manners, just really not having tact, with the way we are. So so this is really asking us to look at that stuff, that the square is about taking action And the nodal axis, the south node's about letting go of things from the past, and the north node's about going towards where we need to be. So we're on this really tense point with that stuff. And it seems like there's this ready for many people in society are ready for a big change. But what this is saying is it's like our own past beliefs are what's actually blocking that from coming in, that we have to kind of let go. And it's interesting, it's that theme and energy comes up more than once in January, but that is like the first big event of the month, and it is the biggest event of this week too. So we're going to really feel it acutely this week also. But like I said, so impregnated into this year too, 2022 that is, because of it being so close in exactness to New Year's Day too. Now, the next thing that happens in January that's a big event is on the 10th, when Eris, which, really started to follow like Chiron on that level, really does seem to be a very active planetoid in the shaping of what's going on a larger scale in particular. So Eris on the January 10th is going to go direct. She's been retrograde, the goddess of chaos. So we may see in it, as when planets go direct, we may see like a lot of external manifestation of like the chaotic energy that's going on in the world. And so we may see a lot more chaotic events start to occur once she goes direct in true world situations, and may affect many of our lives. Now the thing is, she is the goddess of change too. Like, she is forcing us to make changes so that we can, move forward into something greater too. So you can see how that even can be connected to that Jupiter nodal square thing going on, where it's like, maybe this is the push to get us to drop some of those past beliefs and stuff. But, it is going to come through a lot of crisis and challenge. And, we may see a lot of that happen in the world in bigger events too, because Eris is one of the slow movings beyond Pluto, very slow moving. And so a lot of times is related to big chaotic events in the world, both man-made and natural disaster type things. Then on the 14th, Mercury goes retrograde for the first time in 2022, the first of its 3 times. And, it's going to go retrograde in air each time this year again, like last year, but it's actually going to be earlier in the degrees of air. So it'll slip back into the earth sign each time that it does its retrogrades in 2022. So it's going to start at retrograde in Aquarius and back up into Capricorn. And interestingly enough, it's conjunct Pluto during this whole retrograde cycle. So it's going to be really looking deep within again, and I think interestingly enough too, on that level, it's almost once again maybe bringing down to the personal level some of that Jupiter nodal thing of like really kind of looking at the values we have and how we may be stuck on certain things. Aquarius is a fixed sign, and although it's very forward thinking, and it also gets very stubborn and stuck on what it believes is justice and equality. So this Mercury retrograde may be once again showing us that our own values, our own belief systems are the things that are creating a lot of misunderstanding, miscommunication, and blocking what could potentially be a better future. And, so that, the older ways, once again, are what are being questioned. And Aquarius is like, it's okay with that. But what I think a lot of this month is saying is that it's on a personal level too, like whatever we believe in, whether it's for the future or what we're working on, like right now, if we're experiencing like a lot of frustration that it's not the way we want it to be, then a lot of this we need to question whether, we need to like get beyond stuck positions that we have in ourselves. So the Mercury retrograde period will give us a chance to do this internally, to look at our ideas and our beliefs and see what's out of tune. Because you got to remember too, Mercury can be, Aquarius can be kind of weird at times in the sense of like get stuck on odd, alternative type of far out ideas that maybe are a little bit too beyond what can really happen in the present, so that may be what kind of maybe even holding us back, is maybe some of our ideas are too extreme for reality, and therefore once again they're being ineffective not only personally but in society, and that may be bringing up a lot of our frustration. So like I think it'll be a chance for us to look at that stuff when Mercury is retrograde. It starts to go retrograde on the 14th and then goes a little bit into February, the first week of February. So we'll have about 3 weeks there to really look at that and be like, okay, do I need to make some adjustments? Now, on a more regular scale, I would think with Mercury and Aquarius, we can expect for the normal effects of Mercury, delaying things, creating misunderstandings, miscommunications, that kind of thing, all the stuff that, you don't want to start new stuff. You just continue doing what you've been doing with the Mercury retro. But I think we may see science and technology fail us a lot while Mercury is in retrograde. So, we may get a lot of like, internet interruptions might be an example of that. Who knows, kind of things like that. And then air travel will be the thing most likely that's most affected as far as travel goes, being in the air signs, and air travel being the most highly technological type of travel that we do. So I think you're going to see some issues with air travel too. And then as far as the way it affects the weather, I would expect it to be a lot of cold, a lot of windy, cold windy weather a lot, and then we may get some mix of the precipitation in that, depending on where you are too. Okay, and then on the 18th, the next thing that happens in January, Uranus goes direct. So not only do we have Eris, the goddess of chaos, going direct, but we have Uranus, who is in charge, basically, on a larger scale, a planet that rules quick change, revolution, things that like suddenly change, big events that occur very rapidly. It was really interesting, like on the new moon, I don't know if you guys noticed this, like on the new moon on Sunday, it was trine Uranus. And, you have to look for this stuff. You probably don't notice it if you don't look for it. But, I always kind of look around when that Uranus energy is tied to the moons and see, what's the amount of like natural disaster, especially earthquakes. And there were just like a whole bunch of earthquakes on Sunday all over the world while the new moon was trine Uranus. So when Uranus goes direct, another time when, natural disasters are suddenly upsetting events in society, like sometimes like countries could go to war. Like, there's a situation right now in Ukraine and Russia where, troops building up, a lot of rattling of the sabers, things like that. This is a very, very likely month that something can go over the top there and that it could burst out into like, open conflict. And in particular, this, when Uranus is going direct, on the very day it goes direct, on the 18th, it sesquiquadrates Mars too. And that is just like such an angry energy at times, because it's the energy of something that's kind of felt like it's been held back for a long time. So a lot of frustration has built up, a lot of anger has built up, and people have a tendency to make very impulsive, not well thought out moves when Uranus and Mars get together in an aspect like that. So we need to be, on an individual level, we need to be very aware of that ourselves, that we may have a lot of frustration built up about a lot of things, and we could make some very not thought well out moves that could alienate, other people, or hurt ourselves. Really what it always will end up coming back to is hurting ourselves. And with Mars, we could literally hurt our own body. Our own physical body could end up getting damaged in some way from some not well thought out idea or maneuver we make, that's based in the frustration and anger we may feel. But on a larger scale, which is really where Uranus moves a lot of times, as far as its like energy, it really is a really sensitive time for the world events, rebellious acts by individuals or countries that are just really deciding that they're going to go their own way, and so really, and then like I said, a lot of things that could have to do with natural disasters. I mean, with Uranus and Taurus, once again, the land is earthquakes, things like that, or fires across the land. With Mars, like the thing that happened in Colorado this past weekend, another example of the new moon Uranus. Even though it's a trine, Uranus is just setting free a situation that had built up. So the trine just released the energy, and things were just the perfect thing for setting that off. So yeah, and then interestingly enough, the next change is also probably the biggest change of the month. Really, it is. I will call this the biggest change of the month. On January 18th, same day that Uranus goes direct, the north and south nodes change signs. And the reason that is the biggest change of the month is because that only happens once every 18 months. So we have been in Gemini, and it is the north node, and Sagittarius is the south node for the last year and a half. And if you'll remember, I brought it up multiple times over that year and a half, that it seemed to be telling us that old beliefs were what, we needed to get away from, this preachy kind of self-indignant type of behavior and attitude, and that what we needed to move towards was connecting on local levels with information, sharing information on local levels with people that face to face, and making connections that way, and going through information together to figure out what was true and what was not. That was really the nodal assignment of the last year and a half. And I think the handoff is now that the north node's going into Taurus and the south node's going into Scorpio. And I think a lot of this is going to have to do for the next year and a half with now we have this information. A lot of people have decided, okay, this is what I'm, going to be more focused on, so to speak, over what I've learned the last year and a half on, and now I think it's going to have to be applied to resources. The North Node going into Taurus is basically saying, hey, there's got to be new ways, new paths to the way we deal with resources. And you got to remember, the nodes are all about group and community. This is not just individual. This is where the individual connects to the group and the society and community at large. So literally what this next assignment for the next year and a half is with the North Node in Taurus is, okay, humans, how are we doing resources, and how do we stabilize that and get it back into a better balance, not only with ourselves, but with the earth in particular, with Taurus being the first earth sign. It's all about being in balance and harmony with the earth. So, the earth has shown, whether you believe it's man-made or not, doesn't really matter. It has shown that it's really out of balance right now. And we've all seen the resource issues trickle down literally to our store shelves. in the last, year or two. And because of multiple reasons, but the point is it's happening, and it's showing us that it is no longer a viable way of doing things. So that's the South Node in Scorpio. That's like, well, what do you mean? Like, my power and my money and my assets and my heritage and my family and my home and everything are like tied into this old way of doing things. So, you're really, threatening my way of being, and so that's like highly emotionally charged, it's like, and yet it's asking us, like, do we want to really like face, the fears that are like, underlying a lot of that behavior in the way we're doing things, and like, not seemingly being able to change that. So like the North Node in Taurus is like, yeah, we can stabilize this together. We now have the information. We know ways that we can do this politically, socially, environmentally, all these different ways, we've learned these ways, and on a knowledge level, on an air level, but now we need to really bring them down into real practical reality if we want to have a more harmonious existence with one another, which is what the North Node's all about. It's like people coming together, sharing like a dharmic path together. So like we are all born together on this whole planet at the same time. So that's all of us being called to do that together. So, and then, and of course, bringing it down to our own individual level, and where does that work for us? Like, how are we going to look at ways of like changing the way we deal with resources and things? So very interesting energy there too, going on, and I really do consider that the biggest event of the month. Now the last thing I wanted to mention is on January 29th, Venus, which, if you'll remember, has been retrograde since mid-December, is going to go direct, still in Capricorn, and will remain in Capricorn, I think it's until the 15th, if I remember right, in February. Excuse me. That was a long monologue. Time for a drink. Anyway, it's going to, I think it's the 15th. I didn't double check on that, but I know it's somewhere in mid-February where it'll stay in Capricorn. So when it goes direct at the end of the month, what you may see happen, and remember now we're down to Venus is a personal planet, so this is going to be more of an individual thing, we may see, in our lives that, certain relationships we're done with, that it, the Venus retrograde period, which was conjunct Pluto the whole time too, showed us, was showing us where each relationship in our lives kind of fit, and how it was affecting us on deep emotional and psychological levels, and being really serious about that on the Capricorn thing, gaining wisdom from it for ourselves. But I think, like, what you'll have happen at the end of the month is that people will make their decisions on, like, whether this is a relationship that's worthy or not. And when I say worthy, it doesn't mean they're gonna, possibly, at some point, some of them, yes, will throw the whole relationship away, but maybe just, with the Capricorn wisdom saying, well, this is what I can expect from this relationship. And now, I can't really fool myself, so this is like, where it fits in the structure of my life. And put it in its proper place and be realistic about it. Not fooling ourselves about, where it's at. So, and then with others, I think, what it may have done is, cause, people saw a lot of themselves in others' relationships, and it helped them, maybe make some changes and get a grip on themselves. So like with other relationships, we're looking maybe to like stabilize them for a long-term thing, with the Venus and Cap and the Venus turning direct, that we may be like, this is a person that I want to have a long, stable relationship with because, the trust was gained through some very intense times with them during the Venus retrograde, and now the trust has been built to a point where, we feel like it's someone that's like, worthy and wise to have in our lives. So very interesting there. And now let me go to the weekly stuff. So remember, January 3rd through 9th, the biggest event this week was the very first thing I talked about with the Jupiter square the nodes. So that's this week, Monday, it was exact. And then Wednesday, we have a really sweet Venus sextile Neptune. Now, it is retrograde Venus, but this is really sweet. It brings together, it's a very compassionate aspect, very understanding, very tolerant, very empathic, very sensitive to others and to the surroundings we're in. And so really a day of like soft emotions, like kind of like a romantic energy or frame of mind, a blending of conditional and unconditional love, soulmate kind of connections, and a lot of people also, will, have like a spiritual journey maybe that they're on together through relationship or some kind of artistic endeavor or something like that too. And it's interesting too, Venus is actually conjunct Juno that day too, the asteroid of intimate partnerships, so it's likely to be expressed through some type of intimate partner. And then a couple other things this week. Once again, Venus on Saturday, the sun is conjunct retrograde Venus, so we can't see Venus in the sky right now. So the sun and Venus are in the same spot. So Venus is making its transition from the evening sky. If you guys will remember all summer long how bright Venus has been and got really high in the sky too, like 40 some odd degrees up on the horizon during the middle of the summer, really bright. And so right now she's disappeared. She's, in the rays of the sun. And she will start to reappear as a morning star relatively soon. So, and it is a good chance, speaking of astronomical stuff, if you look on the horizon this week, you can see Mercury. It's not easy, but right around sunset, you get a half hour or so where you can see Mercury. So, pull out the app or something and try to line it up and see if you can see it. If you got a good view of the western horizon at sunset, one of the few times Mercury's that trickster. He only appears for a little while, so if you want to see him, you better move fast. All right, so anyway, the sun Venus together like that. The danger of it a little bit is the sun can really get our ego involved in relationships and really trying to steer them. And that's why, when Venus gets stuck behind the rays of the sun, they always say the sun being our, kind of our ego, our self, our drive, can always burn out the other way the other planets will act when they get that close to the sun. So like we get a little subjective is a good way to say it. We try to really dictate where things are at with our relationships and stuff. But yet at the same time, we're also very loving, very into wanting to give and receive love, especially with our loved ones, our friends, our family, those kind of things. But we may, once again, be a little bit stuck on the way we want things to be, and maybe even like old things, that, and a lot of times too, it can, be like the beginnings of new relationships, especially, during this whole period of time, but it's like still trying to figure out the right balance of like where you fit within that and can maintain some type of individuality without being like completely overwhelmed by like the other person's personality or something. So it's, it is sweet, but it is a sweet yeah, we feel good for the most part, and we can actually get a little passive and lazy and even self-indulgent overspend money and, things like that, but also have a lot of good creative ideas, and even creative ideas about money. It might have some good ideas about how to make money in the future. It might not come right away, but like it might be something. So there's a lot of, like I said, the biggest danger of it is just trying to get too pushy with your own way within relationships, and then like burning the other person out kind of is a good way to say it a little bit. And then the final thing Sunday is Mercury is sextile Chiron, which is a nice aspect too. It's like the sharing of ideas and information with others, in any type of way that you would communicate with others that, brings some kind of like information to them that's helpful, that's like that is answers, gives them some answers for some things that they need answers for. So it can be like a healing energy on an intellectual or in the mind. So it gives a really curious mind too. It's an open mind that wants to seek things out and find things. So it is a nice aspect too to end the week. All right, well, got the month of January and the and the week done in about a half hour. So I still need to do a yearly one. And don't want to tack it onto this one right now, or it would double the length of it. So look for the 2022 yearly one. It's going to have a lot to do with the USA, by the way. I'll try to get that done soon. But this is the Astrological Winds channel. And this is Matt Lawton, and I do this vlog every week. It's on YouTube, so if you have a YouTube account, please become a follower, and then don't forget to turn your notifications on so that you know when it comes up. And it's also available on all kinds of podcasts. I've been getting... I think it's expanding even more because I've been hearing from more and more podcasts asking me if I want to be an administrator of my own podcast. So look for it, on whatever your favorite podcast is. Just look up Astrological Winds channel. And if you can't find it on one, try Apple iPodcast. There's a bunch of them it's on. So just go and look for it there. And also, if you have Instagram, just become a follower of Astrological Winds channel on Instagram. And I post the link every week there. And also, I have been starting up, like it's not every day, but sometimes I have some additional insights or just insights for a particular day that I'd like to share, and I'll do just like a quick little blurb on the Instagram thing. Like it's not like a video or anything. It's just like, a couple sentences that I write on Instagram. And so you might want to follow me on Instagram because you might get some, 10-second blurb some morning that may be helpful for you that day. I'm also on Facebook, only private though, so you have to friend me. And I do post the link there. So it's Matthew with 2 T's, Lawton, Lauten. Anyone who wants to give a donation, that's also like where you can look me up on PayPal or Venmo or Zelle under. My email, if you're interested in any kind of reading, natal charts, your predictive readings, relationship readings, all kinds of different readings, fixed stars, relocation, all that stuff, elections. Just email me, matthue823 One more time, it's matthue823 and this is a free service. So the best thing you can do to help pay me back, and like I said, I am open to donations, but the best thing you can do to pay me back is to actually pass the link along to someone else you think you'd be interested in it. And yes, there are classes available. I've had a few people ask about that again recently. There are 5 beginner classes that are available. Just get in touch with me about that too. All right, got some a month of looking at our belief systems and how they may actually be stopping us from getting us to where we really want to go. So we've got an interesting assignment this month, folks. And look for the yearly 2022 one. Probably get it done in the next few days. And until next week, if you're not going to do that one, and we'll do the weekly one next week, try to have commit to some change for the new year, make it your New Year's resolution, and, start to move forward and, into, moving things to a world you want to see. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel signing off.